Hey, Aaron County, it's Michelle Labus, and I want to talk to you about the Palmer group that came in on February 24th to the commissioner's office. This guy came in, and I imagine this is kind of a terrible job. He has to drive around to all these different counties and notify the commissioners that basically there's going to be a letter in the mail that tells them of their rate change, and they can opt out of it, or they can stay in by doing nothing. And so he was just like, just don't open the letters, just don't look at the letters, just stay away from it, and then you'll just stay with us. Which, of course, I'm always a skeptic, and it's like, no, I think I would definitely be looking at that and seeing if we can't get a better rate for what we're doing, especially when he comes in and he says, hey, your rate's going to go from 5 cents to 8 cents because it's a flat rate. We're in group 1, a bunch of small counties, and we have an all-inclusive. Other bigger places, you can have variable, that where if the capacity goes down, your price would go down, but ours is a flat rate. It's all included, and it's going up, and the commissioners are like, okay, sounds good. We'll just do what you tell me to do. And I'm like, nah, I need to research this. So I got the data, I did some research, and I'm going to try and make it really quick because I know it's not necessarily exciting things. Basically, it's all about the inefficiency of solar and wind compared to the coal, nuclear, gas energy. And in the past, the green energy was exempt from the calculations. Well, they removed that exemption. And so they basically said, all right, we're basing the rates on, reliable energy sources. And it was $29.50 per megawatt per day is what it was a couple years ago. Then it went up 833%, and now it's gone up another 22% because they've said, hey, we need to have renewable energy in this factor. And so when you have coal and natural gas and they're producing at 80%, 95% reliability because they run all day, every day, right? So when you have peak times, they're running. And if you have slow times, it's running. And if you have a snowstorm, it's running. They just run all the time. And so they have a great reliability. So they get like this higher score. Well, you bring in solar and you bring in a whole bunch of it. Well, they don't run as well when it's, snowy and they're covered in snow, or the sun's not shining, or, they catch on fire, or whatever it is, right? So it's like they only produce at like 14%, right? So when they say, we're doing this switchover, we're going to, all this money and all this time and effort and all these subsidies have gone into producing renewable energy. So we've been doing that year over year, every year. Well, these other ones are not getting money. They're not getting subsidies. And so they're behind. The nuclear and coal plants, they're not updated because they're not getting any subsidies. And so they go downhill and they're retiring, right? So they're like, we're spending all this money, we're bringing on solar, and at the same time, we're pushing these people over and saying we don't want coal, and we're retiring the plants, and we have made the switch, and the switch has cost us 833%. So we've gone from $29 to they even just capped it off because they said this is going up so astronomically high that we're going to cap it at 329 megawatts per day, which is just insane to me. That it makes sense that when you flood the system with inconsistent energy, that it's going to create a demand issue. It's all supply and demand. And so if you want to use from this capacity, right, you're going to pay the 329 megawatt price, outside of, so it's just all supply and demand. And it's created because we spent all this money on solar and we got rid of the fossil fuel energy. And there's really no end in sight. By the time putting a bunch of money now into these coal and nuclear and gas plants, but it takes time to update them. It takes time to build them. And so we're going to have these astronomical prices for what, another 10 years is what the guy said. There's no relief in sight for 10 years. So you might want to think about going Amish and reducing your electric, the amount of electric you use in your home, because it's just going to be out of control. Now this is for county, so this particular contract is for county, but it applies to all of us because it runs through the same people. And capacity is not going to change, right? So your usage, you're going to have a line item that is your usage that you use for your house, and then you're going to have capacity, and we're paying for the capacity. And we may not be paying for the energy that the data centers use, but we're paying to maintain a capacity that can be used by anybody, right? Let me show you this graph. It is really crazy because you can see the increase. So here's a historic, and then here's a 29, and how high that goes up is just crazy. Oh, and you want to know, I mean, part of it is they say in here, I mean, it's a really interesting report, but they say, you know, it's really because of the data centers that are already on. We have 200 data centers in Ohio that are either already connected or they have been approved for connection. And so that creates a huge demand. And what they did with the solar fields, not to be long-winded, but legislation was coming to legislation was coming to give townships the ability to restrict solar fields, both through their zoning and then through the county, right? And so that passed. Well, before that passed, I don't remember if it was 23 that passed. Of course, the solar companies knew, and PMJ knew, and so they got all kinds of people grandfathered in. So if you got approved at the PMJ, who is our energy, they're the bottom tier. It's a 7-state energy collective grid, right, is the PMJ. And so if they were approved at the PMJ before the law took effect, they're all grandfathered in. So our 5 solar fields are all grandfathered in from the PMJ. So even though they didn't come in until after the law was passed, it didn't matter because they went from the PMJ and they got grandfathered into the Ohio Power Sitting Board, and you know, anything that we did, you couldn't stop them. And so that's the PMJ, right? So if we have data centers that are already approved from the PMJ, they're on our grid, and we're going to be paying that capacity on their behalf. And so the laws now are that they can do their own energy, right? So they can have their own energy plans and kind of, you know, stay off our grid to be sustainable in those, so that they're not taking everything from us and we're just basically subsidizing them. Anyways, so there's the proof in the pudding, is that our electric prices really are going up because of data centers, the capacity. And when you talk about solar being worth only 14%, you know, you're going to need 1 megawatt of solar. You're going to need, 1 megawatt of nuclear energy or coal. You're going to need 3 to 5 or more megawatts of solar. You just can't compare. You can't sustain that. It's not sustainable. So anyways, if you wanted more information, ask questions. I'll give you more, because I've definitely learned a lot more reading this. And so I hope you guys are having a good day and watch your energy usage. All right, talk to you later.